restream. We're good. Let's go over to the old YouTube. Oh, we're already up on YouTube. So this is it. This is Live Before Lock Sunday. NBA Sunday. Forget about the NFL. Nothing you can do about that. Enjoy those games in the background. We do have Live Before Lock tonight for the Showdown slate. But in the meantime, we're talking a little NBA action. We have Fantasy Draft as our sponsor. And we've got a four-gamer with more stars and scrubs value than we know what to do with when we know what to do with it, Eddie. Got a lot of news there from the Pellies that we're still waiting on. They are a 7 o'clock game. I'm hoping we get a little more indication of what they want to do.
We will. I expect to see some clarification with the 5:30 injury report. So 28 minutes from now, in theory, we should get some greater nuance from the current situation. If you want, I can go through that situation real quick. They basically have 8 dudes who are healthy and will play. They have 5 dudes who are definitely out, 2 doubtful, 2 questionable. So they will suit up between 8 and 12 people if somehow both doubtful people and both questionable suit up. But they'll probably have 9 or 10 guys. It's worth pointing out, the Warriors will have 9 guys.
Yeah.
Like, the Warriors have 9 guys. They're going to run 9 guys, and that counts Marquise Chris and Amari Spellman, who, due to the fact they don't like them that much and they're not that good, and the fact you have big locked-in minutes for Draymond Green, Eric Pascal, and some amount of minutes for Willie Cauley-Stein means those guys are going to play 12 minutes. I barely ranked Chris. I did not rank Spellman, even in best possible matchup. They're really running 7 guys. So, again, I need to take a deeper look at our ownership projections here. But I suspect one way, outside the ubiquitous, the omnipresent Kai Bowman on DraftKings and FanDuel, really, I like getting some more ownership, just as sort of a general note to start on some of the Golden State guys who are going to go under owned next to some of their New Orleans counterparts, who you're going to have massive amounts of, Hayes and Moore and Holiday and so on.
All right. And then we had ownership update 11 minutes ago.
I'm looking at it.
So that has massive Kai Bowman. Massive.
It's not enough.
You don't think so?
Nope. And I'm by the way, if you've been watching the show for a while, Mr. Fade the Popular Chalk.
Yes.
I'd get on top of 82% Kai Bowman.
Oh my God. Okay. Not that I'm against it. It's just I'm having visions of.
He costs $3K. I have him projected for 37
minutes or points.
Both basically. I think it's 36 minutes and 37 points, but it's this is actually a great time. I'm just going to steal the reins for a second here.
Sure.
So there are frequent arguments in our industry about, like, I have the best tools and I have the best rankings and I have the whatever. And there are certainly nuances that can start to claw away little bits of rake and little bits of edge and advantage. And certainly if you are gifted in basketball or gifted in database management or both, I certainly encourage you to make your spreadsheet all it can be. But for a simple matchups tool, you can simply multiply pace by defensive rating. Is a really quick way to do it. Basically, you'll get a number that's going to come in somewhere between about 10,000 and 12,000, depending on how good the matchup is. And the higher that number is, the better the matchup is. And the lower the number is, the worse that matchup is. So this all by way of a couple of people today who shall go nameless. We're talking about the Lakers is not that bad of a matchup. The Lakers are a horrible matchup by any traditional metric discussion. You can go into holes in the offense, and that's something or holes in the defense, which is something I talk about with Orlando all the time, which is why I don't hate Bradley Beal tonight. There are, you can go into little nuances of it, but they play at the 5th or 6th slowest pace in the league and have the best defensive rating. And again, to describe really simply what those stats are, defensive rating is number of points you give up per 100 possessions that the other team gets. And pace is the amount of possessions you're taking a game. Just technically not even a defensive stat, but obviously you get a possession in between every one of theirs. So those numbers are going to equate over time. And I'll pull them up. I haven't looked at them today, so I'm not looking at an updated sample, but I want to make sure I get this. All right, so here's pace rankings. Oh my God, they're all the way up to the 8th fastest, although it's worth pointing out they're within hundredths of a percentile point of 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. So their pace is not as moribund as other things, but I imagine they still have the best defensive rating in the NBA. They do. So they are the only team in the NBA giving up less than 100 points per 100 possessions. So if you looked at it for a while, I suspect the Jazz are a slightly worse matchup, but the Lakers are a horrible, horrible matchup for a team. And anyone who is saying otherwise isn't looking at that particular stat correctly. I'll put it that way. I don't know another take you can really have on that. So I just wanted to mention that. But again, if you're like designing your own tools, if you want to make a very simple matchups or rating tool, just multiply the team's pace by its defensive rating, and that's pretty quickly to get you a workable number.
All right, this is going to be a little fun. I'm assuming your rankings are in and updated.
Yeah, second version in.
Has anybody today? This will be the first since Summer League. Has anybody today gotten a AA rating?
Yeah, Kai Bowman.
And is this your first AA rating of the regular season?
Yes.
All right. Well, Eagle Eyes there in the chat. That would be Dave caught on to that one. He said, "I have not seen Fast 84 rank a player AA since Summer League."
Yeah, it's the first. Like, look, I don't. Again, this will be the second time. There's been once this regular season that I've said I'd play 0 of a person. That worked out. There's been twice I said I'd play 100% of a person. That worked out both times. It's not things I say frequently.
No, I know. That's why I'm bringing it up.
You're right. There's no one else to even take the time away. Someone says, do I like Vooch as a pivot off Jokic? I almost look at Jokic as a pivot off Vooch. I have a feeling we have Vooch projected higher. If we don't, I'm shocked. Yeah, we have. All right, so someone just asked, do I like Vooch as a pivot off of Jokic? Jokic is a pivot off Vooch. We have Vooch more than double Jokic's ownership. So, yes, I like Jokic as a pivot off Vooch. Just sorry, segue to that question there, but to give some spoilers on the ownership. But this slate is, so look, the best matchup to face in the NBA, the best team to go against, using sort of the inverse corollary of what I was just talking about, would either be the Washington Wizards or the Golden State Warriors or the New Orleans Pelicans. Those are the best matchups you can possibly have. And they're all here. We don't have the Jazz here, but Orlando is not fun to go against, and Denver is not fun to go against, and the Lakers are not fun to go against. Really, the only sort of middle-of-the-road team we have out there is Memphis. Memphis is coming in kind of close to average. But we have 4 remarkably good matchups in Washington, Golden State, New Orleans, and Atlanta. And, of course, 2 of those teams are playing each other. And then we have 3 really, really tough spots in Orlando and Denver and the Lakers as far as opponents go. So, obviously, we can look at Trae Young. I'm going to have some interest in Bradley Beal. But, there are 3 teams in Memphis and Washington and Atlanta that we should generally be really skeptical here, because we just have so much good value and so many studs in great spots. It's really weird to get to, mid-priced guy in a bad spot. There really aren't any median spots today. Everyone in on Washington, even counting Bradley Beal, although he's in the best spot, so you can get into that whole funnel argument I've had this year that's generally worked pretty well, but still feels weird to bring sort of football into it, is in a really bad spot. Everyone on Orlando is in a great spot. Everyone on Memphis is in a bad spot. Everyone on Denver is in a pretty good spot. Everyone on Golden State and New Orleans are in great spots. Everyone on Atlanta is in a terrible spot, and everyone on the Lakers is on a great spot. You should be really... you will get some guys at low enough ownership. And again, we'll go through this guy by guy and see for whom the ownership is so low, it seems advantageous to try to take a shot at guys. But I generally try to hedge away from ordinal things where people say this is the second best pace of the night, or this is so I generally don't like being with good matchup, bad matchup, because obviously they're vague, but also because uncontextualized, it's difficult to know the differential between them. So if someone says this is the second highest over under of the night. Okay, is it 1 point under first place or 11 points under first place? And is it 1 point over third place or is it 11 points under third place? But for tonight, I think you can really look at, boy, these are teams I don't want to take a heavy look at because it's really as wide of a disparity as you're going to get in game environments on a slate this short, especially. So again, to bring that, around, players on Orlando, very nice. Players on Golden State, players on New Orleans, players on the Lakers, and then a couple exceptions, guys on Denver, some of them are priced pretty well. That matchup certainly is not a bad one, but, going for players on Washington and players on Atlanta outside of their, superhuman guards is going to be asking for trouble more times than not. Now, you're going to look at the ownership percentage. If you're going to get Jabari Parker at 3%, I'd be interested. I think last I saw we had him projected somewhere around 8. That's too much for me. I'll look somewhere else. So there's, just as far as the overall notes of the slate, there are really, the good spots are as good as they get and the bad spots are as bad as they get. I'll put it that way. You even have Atlanta also on a back-to-back. So there's all kinds of danger signs.
I don't think we're waiting. I don't think we're waiting on any news in that late game. So let's start with that one first. Just to kind of hit on it because and sure. Kind of punch it out of the way here. What
that's Atlanta and LA.
Atlanta and LA. So
the only news would be there would be Anthony Davis and whether or not Evan Turner is going to sit because he's been injured for a long time and is now on a back-to-back. So yeah. that's kind of, stuff I could see happening, but there's no super critical news. And as I previously mentioned, I'm not super interested in Atlanta anyway, outside of really just a couple guys.
Yeah. So question one is going to be, we have the amazing stars and scrubs here, studs and duds, whatever you'd like to call it. We could get both, or we can get at least two of the Nikolais, that would be Vucevic and Jokic, and you can get in Drew, and you can get in Trey, and you can get, who else? LeBron and Davis and Beal, and fill in the blank. Probably could get three of them in if you really want to. Would you be willing to play Davis and LeBron on the same team?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, not even close to a question on a night like tonight. The value is so good, and some of the other guys are in dicey spots. Like if you're looking at, if we go back to the teams we're really interested in targeting, who are the studs on those teams? It's Drew, LeBron, Brow, Vooch, kind of Jokic. Like there's not that many of them, and the penalty, I don't know how to put it any better than the penalty for playing both of them is less than it ever will be on another day. There's just too much insane value between Alexander Walker and Etuan Moore and Alec Burks, depending on site, and Kai Bowman on every site, and I'm not even listing 5 other guys, that it's, you can still play all guys projected to get 30 plus fantasy points. Yeah. So
that's actually a very unique way of saying it.
Like there's normally you're like, okay, I got to run this out and hope Mo Wagner goes off for 50, or I got to run this guy out and maybe he gets enough minutes. There's just so many guys on Golden State and New Orleans, especially, and a couple other guys sprinkled around, and there's Aminu thrown into play, and a couple of that you're not really sacrificing any expectation to just play 2 monster guys. Anthony Davis's price is, Anthony Davis costs less than Bradley Beal. Like Anthony Davis is $9,200. It costs less than Trae Young. So, it's a different conversation on FanDuel where they're both 11 and change. And I still think you can do it. It's almost should do it because you still get a third stud in there. Right. But normally, I'm a fan of fading chalk, and that includes chalk builds. And I think, the normal place most people are going to start tonight is Kai Bowman plus Etuan Moore is probably second most popular value, plus maybe, Alexander Walker or whatever is and it's just that projects as the best lineup by more than it usually does. Normally I look at the stars and scrubs lineup, and on a good stars and scrubs night with good value, it's good, but I can, and it's going to go out there and it projects me for 360 and that looks good, but I can build a balanced one that projects me for 350 and all the guys in it are as third is owned. And so that's an interesting decision point. Tonight, the lineups of that type project as the best by a really significant margin. So to bring it back to the game we're talking about, I have no issue with any amount of Trae Young. Again, the penalty for paying his significant price tag. Again, he's more than Anthony Davis on DK. He's 10-4, I think is the FanDuel number. FanDuel. Wow, that's a good one.
Different website.
Different. It's crowdsourcing. Is really minimal. So certainly it makes a lot of sense. I have LeBron pretty clearly as the top overall guy. I like him even a little more than Anthony Davis, even at the discounts there. And certainly for trying to get one in on FanDuel where they're only separated by, I think it's $200, then LeBron makes sense as the first guy to pound in there. Anthony Davis makes some sense just because small forward has some slightly more compelling options where you have Al-Farouq Aminu in there and Kenrich Williams in there and Alec Burks in there, all of whom look phenomenal at their prices. So the real issue with small forward on FanDuel is you kind of have to play LeBron. You don't have to play LeBron, but you want to play LeBron. It makes sense to get your highest scoring guy in there on a slate where there's 8 minimum price guys who are projected to go for 30 plus fantasy points. Getting LeBron in makes a whole lot of sense. And if he goes off for 80 and you don't have him, you kind of just die. But you also have on small forward on FanDuel, you have Al-Farouq Aminu, Kenrich Williams. Glenn Robinson is not out of consideration in this matchup. And again, another guy I'm really critical of, and $4,500 Alec Burks, who I'm absolutely in love with. So it's tough. Like, you kind of want to play 2 of those guys. And if you can't, you got to, play Braun and one of them. And that's going to be oddly, like, so much will come. A lot's going to come down to, humorously enough, small forward on FanDuel tonight.
All right, a couple specific questions. Would you play LeBron over AD on FanDuel just because of the chance AD sits? I don't know that there's a chance he sits tonight.
I would,
that we're aware of. So
he is probable. He has been probable many games this season and played them all. I think the one he sat was in the preseason. I could be mistaken about that, but they're not on a back-to-back. Atlanta is. Atlanta's doing the Clippers Lakers back-to-back, so they're no travel for them, if that factors into your calculus in some way. But he's been probable basically every game this year. He has sat just one, the Golden State game a few days ago. So I think there's a 90-something% chance he'd play. I would play Brow over Anthony Davis because I have him projected higher and they're the same price, but power forward on FanDuel is not great either. After you go through Anthony Davis, you have Derek Favors, who's expensive and doubtful. I believe he's one of the 2 doubtful guys. You have Jabari Parker, who's in a really, really difficult spot. You have Draymond at 7K, which I'm just fine getting to. You have, a couple guys you can play, but there's really no one at power forward after Anthony Davis that projects to score within 15 or so fantasy points. I mean, literally, these are the guys in play at power forward: Anthony Davis, Jabari Parker, Derek Favors, Draymond Green, Aaron Gordon, Jaren Jackson, Paul Millsap, Rui Hachimura, Kyle Kuzma, Eric Pascal at 5K, Brandon Clark, Al-Farouq Aminu, who, pardon me, is actually a power forward there. I got that wrong. Even though he'll be playing small forward tonight, he's power forward on FanDuel at $3,900. So that makes sense. That's one power forward I actually like at his price. And I don't like spending 11.6 for Anthony Davis, but letting him go means if he has just his projected game, which would be some 55 fantasy points against the Hawks. And again, it's worth pointing out, Jabari Parker, no likey defense at all. So, Anthony Davis scoring 85 fantasy points tonight really wouldn't be the weirdest thing in the world if the game stays competitive. So you're just dealing with, I didn't play Anthony Davis, and he was the highest scoring power forward by 46 points. You're kind of dead. And of the values, you can put in some absolute, you can start with 3,800 for Kai Bowman at point guard and 3,500 for Alexander Walker at shooting guard, and several other guys who slot in there very nicely at their prices, and the Jordan Pooles of the world. And there's just some really compelling guard value. So yes, I would play LeBron over Anthony Davis on FanDuel if I was only going to play one of them. I imagine, I will click and check this, that our ownership bears that out. It does not. I'm confused.
It may tweak a little bit. Let's not get to it just yet, but we're starting to get some of the Pelican news.
I mean, small forward has absolutely brilliant value. But sure, let's talk about Pelicans news. So I guess that makes some sense. But I would rather play LeBron James and suffer the slings and arrows of power forward than vice versa.
All right. Anything else from this game at all that you would want to talk about?
No, let's talk. We got some news here. So Redick on track to play. Frank Jackson, a game time decision. Derek Favors not playing. I will push a ratings update in a moment and re-crunch a rotation.
All right.
I'm waiting on Brandon Ingram news.
While you're doing that, let me do this. Fantasy Draft, sponsor of the show, the only home where you can play rake-free daily fantasy sports. You'll want to check that out. It's at fantasydraft.com. How do you play rake-free, EMAC, you are asking? Well, let me tell you. It's actually a subscription. So mine is $5.99 a month. I get $1,000 of play per month for my $5.99. You deposit your money. They are going to ask you for 3.5% to cover that deposit fee, but that's it. You don't have to pay anymore. So as long as you have money in your account, I can go all the way up to that $1,000 and not have to worry about going up to the next level of subscription. If I want to go up to the next level of subscription, no problem. They'll just tack it on because it's like your phone. Once you hit those overage charges, they'll help you out. If you have not signed up yet for a subscription, you can use the promo code OSMO and get $1,000 to use in your first week, or everybody gets $100 a month there to be able to play. But it's all rake free after you get your money in there. Just want to point that out. There's no better place to play, saving between 10 and 15% on every game you enter.
That sounded like a Geico ad. It was good. As a pro read. So let's
I was making that one up, damn it. Tom, I can do these.
You're good. You're good. I'm sure Tom has faith in you. So let's talk about the Pellies. So right now we are trending to, versus looking at last night's game, we will again have the 8 guys we expect to be healthy and play. Those guys are Drew Holiday, E'Twaun Moore, Kenrich Williams, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Josh Gray, Jackson Hayes, Xylem Cheatham, and Nicole O'Malley. Okay? JJ Redick, in theory, makes 9. And we have... hold on, I want to make sure I'm not messing anyone. In theory,
Ingram could be probably will not play, says Gentry, but he's still a game time decision. I'm gonna guess he doesn't play.
Gentry said that?
Yes.
I gotta source that. And then Frank Jackson would be a game time decision. So, if you get Okay, so yeah, that's basically what we have. Frank Jackson is still full questionable, 50-50. Nobody knows crap. Brandon Ingram is didn't seem optimistic, but said he'll test it out. So I'll go a little less than 50-50 on him. So let's talk about the Pelicans a little bit. So last night they played 10 dudes. That included starting the quickly injured and leaving Derek Favors and Frank Jackson. You just made a noise, EMAC. What's up?
That was my night last night. It was bad. Shout out to the Osmo NHL projections that carried me to a positive evening. Jackson and Favors crushed me.
Yeah, in theory, if you use the NBA projections instead, those are going to go better for your basketball.
Wait, nobody told me that.
There you go. No, your guys got put in the penalty box. So Favors and Frankie there started and exited after 8 and 5 minutes. So in last night's abbreviated game environment, it should be worth pointing out that the minutes went to 36 for Drew, 40 for E'Twaun Moore, 39 for Kenrich Williams. Okay. After that, it was 30 for Alexander Walker, 28 for Melly, and 24 for Hayes. So let's talk about Alexander Walker for a minute here. He played 30 last night. Now, he was brilliant. He took 18 shots. He made 10 of them. That's all very exciting. But even if Frank Jackson doesn't play, we're now adding JJ Redick back in. So I guess I'll start by concluding. Obviously, the guard minutes are going to get a little tighter than the big minutes here. It's hard not to think you still don't get a ton of time out of Kenrich Williams. It is hard to think that you don't get some sort of time out of Jackson Hayes, depending on how everything else goes. But Melly can and will play some center. Cheatham can and will play some center. Jackson Hayes, I liked a lot in Summer League, but against NBA competition has looked pretty bad most of the time. He played 24 minutes last night. He took 6 shots. He made them all. He still wasn't great. He had 12 points, 3 rebounds, a steal, and 2 blocks. That's fine for last night. That's not good enough for today. It's just not. Now, I'm absolutely fine with you still playing some Jackson Hayes, and with Favors out, I still think your minute totals are going to look there. I have to work on a new minutes projection for everybody when I get a second, maybe when this news firms up a little bit. But he does appear to be being oversold for me currently. So of the guys I'm looking at right now and being like, I worry if this is going to necessarily work out for them. Probably first on that list would be Jackson Hayes, and probably second on that list would be Alexander Walker if Redick plays. Those minutes can come down, and again, they had 8 healthy guys. So if we look at again, that game last night, Cheatham got 14 minutes, Gray got 15, Jackson Hayes got 24, and Favors took 8. So it is worth pointing out, you're in theory, many of those minutes could have gone to him, but they're not going to have a problem going small here, and I still think they will lean on Melly more than they will on Jackson Hayes as far as minutes go. Alexander Walker got 30, Williams got 39 again, Moore got 40, and Drew Holiday got 36. Drew's going to get his time. Kenrich Williams, by virtue of being able to play multiple positions, is going to get his time. Each-one Moore led the team in minutes and shots. That should mean something, though he hasn't been 100% healthy, so you worry a little about 40 minutes last night, what happens tonight. But in terms of raw projection, everyone from this game projects great. It should be worth pointing out. Like, there is an argument to be made that you're simply fading ownership because even the guys you don't like to play in DFS, or I'll speak for myself, I don't like to play in DFS, the Glenn Robinson III of the world and the Jordan Pooles of the world project really, really well. But if you get Frank Jackson in and JJ Redick in, you actually have some competition for guard minutes on this team at that point. You're going to have Josh Gray maybe fall out of the rotation entirely at that point. And they actually would have a player available who they don't play if both those guys are in. There's a chance he doesn't play at all. Again, I'm a little more bullish about the Warriors, who are just going to play 9 dudes. The Warriors are, barring something weird, they are going to start Pascal, Glenn Robinson III, Willie Cauley-Stein, Bowman, and Draymond, which is a pretty. That's who they're almost certainly going to start. We have a reasonable simulacrum for this for when D'Angelo Russell missed 3 games last week, the first week of November, from like the 2nd to the 9th or something. D'Angelo Russell missed 3 games with an ankle injury, and you had basically the same pool of guys you have now, plus Damian Lee, who's going to be out. But they are going to run. It's a big lineup, but they're going to start Pascal, Glenn Robinson III, Willie Cauley-Stein, Bowman, and Draymond, and they're going to have Poole, Spellman, Chris, and Burks behind them, and that's it. So they have 9 guys, and Spellman and Chris don't play that much. So you have 7 guys who are going to get real minutes on that team, and we kind of know where they're going to go. So, and they're going to be lower owned, and they're in nearly as good of a spot. The Warriors are probably actually, though it's closer with Draymond back, the best spot you can be in, but the Pelicans would be the second best. So again, I will say I'm a little more excited about, worrying about Jackson Hayes and worrying a little bit about Alexander Walker minutes. And again, we'll continue to monitor news. We're a half hour out now. I'm a little more excited about getting to Burke specifically. Bowman, obviously, everyone's going to go there, which is good because it's going to drive people away from Burks, who should be higher on than he is, and Poole, who should be higher on than he is. And a little more excited about getting to a little more Warriors in the field and a couple fewer Pelicans. But yeah, unless I'm wrong, they will play 9 guys. 2 of them will play 12 minutes. That's a lot of time for the other 7. And they're playing the Pelicans, so There you go.
All right, well, might as well continue going in reverse order here. Let's go hit
Sure.
on Denver and Memphis. Let me get up there to the news we have. So it sounds like Will Barton is going to be playing. He's been dealing with a sore groin, but he is
That's it.
in.
Yeah, it's a shame too because it kind of screws everything up a little.
And yeah, Memphis Grayson Allen is out. That looks like it for those two teams.
Yep, they're fully healthy. Yeah, both teams on an island. Big island game for the Nuggets, actually. They played Thursday and don't play until Wednesday. So they have already shown a propensity to really, really lean on the starters quite a bit, and there's no reason to think that may not continue here. So in what's an above average matchup, I certainly like getting to some low owned pieces of this team. In general, I think this may turn into a Jeremy Grant game. I would have almost no Jeremy Grant because there's some uncertainty there still, and there's always a chance that Paul Millsap gets it going, and Paul Millsap does get his ton of time. But if one of these starters were to miss appreciable time, I would think it would be Paul Millsap in this spot, and you might get Jeremy Grant there. That really doesn't do much for Jeremy Grant for me, relative to, again, all the value on the other teams in better spots. But Jokic, probably my order of preference would be Jokic, Murray, Harris, Barton, Millsap is how I would place them. And that being said, you can play $6,000 Paul Millsap, against a young team that gives up plenty of turnovers, and when he hits his ceiling game, tends to be 3 steals and 2 blocks. And 4-game slate. So, I would find myself exposed there. But that's how I would rank the Denver starters. And again, they've been giving them really nice minutes. And again, they're coming off 3 days rest and are about to get 2 more. So they can certainly lean on them a little bit.
Now from Memphis here, it's been interesting seeing how the guards are playing together, off the ball sharing, etc. Rozier came back, or pardon me, yeah, sorry, Scary Terry came back and had a bit of a slow go in the last game, but had a nice finish. Hit a couple threes, got his points back up there. This has been a unique team. Clearly a young team, Eddie. A lot of mental mistakes and a lot of guys that are playing together kind of for the first time there for Memphis. What do you like amongst these guys, or are they kind of tertiary plays?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of anyone necessarily on Memphis. The matchup simply isn't good, and it isn't good by a really significant margin. I don't like the matchup for Valanciunas. I would play some because he is a monster ceiling guy. We've started to see 30 minutes out of him. 30 minutes out of J Val is going to be exciting for me. But would certainly be a lower priority for me. But the guy I'd go to first on the team is Ja Morant, who's obviously feeling himself a little bit more over the last week. One of the better spots if you're going to go at this Denver team. The first guy I would get to would be Ja Morant. When you look at Dylan Brooks or Jay Crowder or Kyle Henderson or Brandon Clark, they're just well worse than all these 4K value guys by a really, really significant amount. Again, I'm a fan of getting away from value when it's going to be 60% owned, and I have guys who are 4% owned who are projected for a point or 2 less. Here I have guys who cost $1,500 less and are projected for 9 more fantasy points. I have a lot of trouble getting to Dylan Brooks and Jay Crowder under these circumstances. Jay Crowder on FanDuel, the best of them at $4,900. He's going to play his 30 minutes. There's a ceiling game there. If I have to go at one of the value guys, I guess it would be Jay Crowder. But by far my favorite guy would be Ja Morant. I think he's fine. It's a little site dependent where he ranks with Jamal Murray and some of the other mid-price options to take a shot at here. After that, it'd be Jay Crowder and then Jay Val and then Jaren Jackson Jr. I can see struggling with foul trouble against a number of guys in this spot, so I don't want to go there. But 4-game slate, obviously a guy who can just bust off and give you 50 because he's just one of these very, Marquise Chris-like in that, yeah, there's a lot of foul trouble, but he can make some threes and do steals and blocks and just do enough of everything that on a 4-game slate, that could certainly happen for you. But low priorities for me. Like Morant, legitimately, I'm fine with getting 15-20% Ja Morant. That really wouldn't bother me. Crowder, especially on FanDuel, if I have to go to another guy. Valanciunas, because he, carries an upside, but I would much rather play. It's just not incentivized enough to go there in a really tough spot, as opposed to going to not that much more money to play Vooch or Jokic more often than not, or one of the infinite value options. Valanciunas would come in third, and then I guess Jaren Jackson, Dylan Brooks, and they're leaning pretty heavily on the starters, so not a lot of bench options. I'm super excited in here, unless you want to play blowout/foul trouble game, and it's a 4-game slate, and you can play that game and be like, I think you're going to get a weirdly bad game out of Ja Morant, who's going to be somewhat popular, especially at only 6,500 on DK, and it's been really popular, some buzz around him this week. I'm going to play Tyus Jones at 3 whatever, who's going to be 1% owned in the world of brilliant ownership in those other games. I probably wouldn't do it because, again, whenever you make that play, you're also making an implicit argument against the value, and I'm sold on the real value. So this isn't the night for me that I'd want to do that, but if you want to play I think they get blown out, you could try that. But yeah, not a team I'm super interested in. And Denver, I will continue to be heavily invested in getting some of Nikola Jokic. Let me see what we have our ownership on him at right now.
They just hit another update.
Sweet. Let's take a look at that update. Wonder if Bowman's up to 90 at 88. See how it Where we're going, we don't need roads. I can't believe it. Braun is sitting at 37.
Yeah, Jokic is 17.
Drew is that's nuts. I think he triple-doubled last time he played Valanciunas, if I recall this correctly. I may be forgetting a game. I don't believe they've played since Valanciunas moved. I think that the last time I remember him whooping him pretty solidly in Toronto. I'll look. Not that this matters a ton, but there's no reason to be concerned about the matchup for Valanciunas, would be my point, or for Jokic. Valanciunas is actually really not a very good defender, certainly against players who can shoot from the outside and pass and do all the things Jokic can do. What do I got? Downloading. Okay. December 2018, Toronto, Jokic, 23, 15, and 11. 15 assists, 11 rebounds, actually, in that game. Yeah, so that's the one I remember. They played twice in 2018, and the other one, Jokic had 29, 16, and 8. Now, again, he's been looking not generally interested and apparently a little bit chubby. I don't even want to get into that smoke, but yes, all the ceiling in the world is there. And yeah, I would have to say I'm a pretty ginormous fan if that's where we expect the ownership to be. And that feels right to me. He's been, not good. And people hold grudges, but like $8,700 on DKs, $2K less than LeBron. There's no reason you can't play LeBron and Davis and Jokic, or LeBron and Jokic, and like it's very easy to get to that lineup. It's not even difficult.
All right, let's hit. Oh, let me get the super chat question here. This is from Sam Snyder. Would you rather play Fournier or Gordon on FanDuel? Aaron Gordon.
Well, obviously, I'm sure you know they're different positions. If you're asking the question, would I rather play Fournier or Gordon? It's a little complicated because of the evolving injury reports out of Narlands. You got to make some adjustments there. Like I want to take like 2 minutes and work on a New Orleans rotation now because I'm just really concerned about the guard value there. So I'm trying to figure out exactly how many minutes I can give to everybody on New Orleans, because your question implicitly carries the other question of what I think is going to happen with Frank Jackson, which I obviously have no damn clue, but what I think is going to happen with Alexander Walker is going to be a really popular piece of value there. So it's a little difficult for me to say. And then I just want to double check. Okay. I think I would be a little more excited still at the moment to play Aaron Gordon. But it's, again, one of them is, they're both obviously in a supreme matchup. Fournier is that much cheaper. I don't know. I'm a pretty big fan of both plays, actually. Give me just one. No, I'm actually going to reverse myself. I would slightly rather play Evan Fournier. Looking at some things in the past, some notes I have with Beal. But I like playing both those guys quite a bit. Again, power forward is wide open. I think enough people will game log watch Jabari Parker that certainly he can brute force his way to a quality line here. And he's someone even in tough matchups previously this week I was a big fan of, and he's paid off for me. But Jabari Parker, price now up to I think 76 on FanDuel, got cowed pretty well against the Clippers, and this is a tough spot. You see lots of LeBron James, and I guess you could see lots of Kuzma and try to take advantage of that. But Aaron Gordon over, yeah, it's really tough. I like both those plays a lot. I'm just looking at more and more of it. You're going to see relatively little Aaron Gordon, where he's the same price as Jaren Jackson and 100 less than Draymond, who's going to bear significant popularity, and then there'll be Anthony Davis, and then people take shots at a lot of this value, especially Nicolo Melli is going to be really popular, and Al-Farouq Aminu, who he established as a power forward there, is going to be really popular. So that's really tough for me. I'm strong for both plays. Flip a coin, go with your gut. I can't make a solid decision for you, and it does have a lot to do with how else your lineup correlates with who in which game. You have Eric Pascal on FanDuel too, is 5,000 flat, I think, and it's really worth pointing out when you take D'Angelo Russell out of there. My favorite is Burks. Again, touting Chris Clemens last night. I was talking about, look, Russell Westbrook is off the court, and you're playing PJ Tucker and a lot of guys who aren't particularly offensively advantageous on an NBA scope. Someone needs to take shots, and Chris Clemens is, little Chris Clemens is standing behind the back row of tall guys going, ooh, me, I'll take all the shots. And, he went out there and did his thing. That's Alec Burks tonight. D'Angelo Russell is out. Okay, that's 20, 25, 30, 35 shots that are now up for grabs. Draymond's a very good basketball player, but he's not super ISO guy, and will be hopefully more of a facilitator than anything else. I'm obviously just fine with Draymond tonight. I would probably have less than the really high ownership we're looking at him right now, especially on DraftKings, where you kind of don't need to get there. But as New Orleans evolves, that'll maybe change a little bit. But Alec Burks is the guy jumping up and down with his hand going, oh yeah, I'll shoot. So keep that in mind.
All right, hit that first game here. We got 18 minutes left. It's Washington, it's Orlando. We have Al-Farouq Aminu starting. Jan Mahimni is cashing them checks. Jonathan Isaac, sprained ankle, will not play. Thomas Bryant is in. He's dealing with a sore hip. And Jordan McRae is sick. So he is not going to play.
He is sick with it.
Yeah.
Oh, you just mean he's ill. Oh, okay.
He's illin'. He be illin'.
You and I are so incredibly Caucasian right now.
Oh, yes.
Like literally, I can almost see through us. We're almost transparent at this point. Okay.
That would be the case. Sam says thank you for the in-depth answer there on the super chat. And I will say, Sam, rarely does Eddie go with a tie. So
that was a terrible. Yeah, I don't punt a lot, but I really like those plays. Obviously, the matchup. The tough thing about tonight is those guys are incredible. Someone on Orlando should be really, really good. Not barring a blowout, someone there is going to have to put together a good game. Odds on it's going to be Vooch. We recently saw, a 50-point extra effort out of Gordon in a far harder matchup than Washington. Fournier, for most of this year, has actually been really consistent. This is a matchup in which he's done well in the past and can certainly get open. And, bombing some number of threes is only 5,600. Gordon's 69, which is a nice price, but not as good as 56. I like both those matchups for a lot of reasons, and there's not a lot of reasons not to like them, other than in both positions you're not paying someone who costs $1,000 or $2,000 less and is projected exactly the same. So going back to the top, I want to discuss a couple things here. Priority value for me is Alec Burks and Kai Bowman. Those are the guys who I'm like, yeah, I want to play these two guys. There are many, many, many other compelling pieces of value, and it's difficult to rank them because they really change FanDuel to DraftKings. I am concerned with Alexander Walker. We have his ownership now sitting down at 16%. Okay, that's perfectly reasonable. Now I'm less concerned. When we had 30, 40, 50% Alexander Walker, again, those guard minutes are going to be a little tighter there. Jackson Hayes is absolutely fine to play, but we have him near 50%, and there's just enough ways where that works out. And my thing against bad cash. I don't know if we're going to get it right for the 10th time in a row, but I guess the guy right now who's got my hackles most up about the value would be Jackson Hayes. I like Jackson Hayes just fine. I have him well behind, and I love Alec Burks at 4,900. I have Alec Burks projected for 38 fantasy points. 39 and a half fantasy points. That's really good for $5,000 or something. So I would rather play Burks. I would rather play minimum price Melly than Jackson Hayes. I think they're a little more comfortable going with the minutes there. We'll see, but I haven't projected for more minutes. I think that sticks. But those would be my value priorities. And, I wouldn't totally sleep on Jordan Poole, who may take 18, 20 shots tonight, non-impossibility. He's $4,100. It cannot be overstated what a great game environment is for those guys. And again, you're going to have 24 minutes go to Marquise Chris and Amari Spellman, and those other 7 guys are going to chop up the other 216. That's a lot of time. If they broke it evenly, that'd be 31 minutes a dude. So, I have above Midland interest in, say, Jordan Poole.
So how much under would you go on Jackson Hayes? We have him at 47% on DK. He's 3,300 center
only. Normally I can approximate that better than I can right now. With all the moving pieces, I'm struggling to figure it out by intuition the way I normally do. I suspect I would have around a quarter.
Okay.
There are obviously any number of ways it works out. He is incredibly cheap. The matchup is just a fine one, but I have foul trouble concerns. I have minutes concerns. I have popularity concerns. And again, I can start with Kai Bowman. He's the minimum. Everyone's going to do that. Okay, cool. And then I'd rather play Burks. I'd rather play more. There's times 3,300. When you get down to 3,300 after Bowman, I'm trying to think who's in that range who is nearly as compelling. And it's pretty much Alexander Walker and I think out. And I want to make sure I'm so I would probably play Hayes over Alexander Walker in my first lineup. So I guess if you need two 3Xs and they turn into Kai Bowman and Jackson Hayes, I get that. If I can get away with playing, and again, I'm looking at a placeholder now that has 3 monster studs in it, and Burks and Poole and Bowman, and it's fine. You don't have to do anything horrific with your lineup. I would try to rather get away from playing Hayes if I could. I'm looking at a 50% guy where I can see how that could not necessarily work out. I understand why people are going there. As a guy I really liked in Summer League, and this, there's certainly, the ceiling very much exists as it does most of the time. Sometimes you have like Corey Joseph, which is always weird because the ceiling doesn't exist, but there's a real ceiling for Jackson Hayes to put up 40 fantasy points tonight. That's a real possibility. But yeah, I'm just a little concerned that actually works out. So that's probably the guy I'm looking to go under on at their current ownership rankings. I like Jackson Hayes more than Alexander Walker at this point, but Alexander Walker is 1/3 as owned. So.
All right, from the Orlando and Wizards, we got 12 minutes left. Beal stands out a little bit, just kind of a price and a Giroux pivot. You've got Isaiah Thomas, who's adequate. Thomas Bryant dealing with that hip injury, but he's in from Orlando. Looking at Booch,
he's confirmed. He's confirmed starting also.
Yep. Sorry. What do you want to mop up on this game here? Because people want to hear Golden State and New Orleans again, because they want to know point Draymond, Willie Cauley-Stein, stuff like that. So wrap this one up and then go into that one.
Okay. Let me see what actually needs to be said here. I think Isaiah Thomas is playable. I legitimately like Bradley Beal. Again, Orlando is a bit of a guard funnel spot. I think that's a very real thing. Taking out John Isaac and putting in Al-Farouq Aminu does lessen that tendency. And Brad Beal's price is no longer screwing around by any means. He's 96 on DK. I mean, he's more than Anthony Davis. He's 98 on FanDuel, where he makes an interesting $400 more pivot over Drew Holiday. But, from the beginning of the year, I said, you were going to just get some monster performances out of Bradley Beal and Kevin Love and just being like, I'm the only good player on my team. Once in a while, he's just going to go out and put his thing down. And no one else has a good matchup. And his matchup isn't good per se, but it's much, much better than everyone else's. So All the game doesn't take place on the outside. You still have to drive into the interior. You still have to deal with other things, but that isn't particularly Vooch's forte on defense. So, yeah, I'm not surprised to see what I think would be a third consecutive 60-point fantasy game out of Brad Beal here. They're on an island. I'm fine with getting to Brad Beal. I can't, from a points perspective, take him over Drew Holiday. But don't play Mo Wagner. Thomas Bryant is in. I think more often than that, that's going to screw things. He's not entirely out of play for me, but rarely is he going to score, 50 fantasy points in 25 minutes. That's not going to happen very frequently. And the price is no longer terribly compelling for that. Vooch is great. I would rather play Jokic at his prices, but it's very close for me. But Vooch is absolutely great. But I think the odds of getting 80 are a little higher out of Jokic, so I would be more inclined to go that way.
On FanDuel, would you go Murray and Vooch or Thomas and Jokic?
Murray and Vooch or Isaiah Thomas, I'm assuming that is, not Thomas Bryant?
Sorry, Isaiah Thomas, my bad. Or it could be Isaiah Thomas Bryant. Before and after Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah,
get well soon, Pat Sajak.
Yeah. All the segues are out of control. I'll go with Murray and Vooch in that limited description. I like playing Murray and Vooch. If you're not playing Jokic, I like playing Murray as the next guy who's gonna pick up a piece there. So that feels slightly better for me. Isaiah Thomas feels a little dirty today. It's in play, but it seems generally wrong in the world we live in.
All right. Sorry, one more here. So, and before I'll just let you run here. We've got the question is, if on FanDuel you're playing Davis and LeBron, do you need to run back a Hawk? If you do, who?
No, you don't. Is the short answer. You can play still minimum price Cam Reddish, who, by the way, I just missed getting when he got to his 30 minutes yesterday when I totally didn't expect it. In not the best matchup and a total whooping. Finally got to his 32 minutes. Way to go, Cam Reddish. So, you can do something like that. But the only Hawk I really don't like playing Jabari Parker in the spot. And again, I've been over the field on Jabari Parker for 3 of his last 4 games, and it's been good. He's expensive enough, and there's just better value for me that I don't think I end up going there a lot. So you'd basically be saying, do I have to play Trae Young? And no, you don't have to play Trae Young at that point. And trying to pick another Hawk as, but being like I have LeBron and Anthony Davis, so I have to play Damian Jones that just doesn't really work. And again, there's when you're looking at potential blowouts and tough matchups, you want to be on the side of the team that you would expect to do the crushing, not the team that expects to get crushed. So,
all right. Do we see point Draymond? How do you feel about Willie Cauley-Stein in cash and tournaments? And I guess the Celtics the Golden State Warriors front court is really just what they want to hear about since we've hit the wings and guards multiple times.
So you will see Draymond distribute the ball a lot. He will not bring it up much, and Kai Bowman is going to play 37, 38 minutes of point guard in this spot. So you'll get a little, and that makes him feel a little bit better. The price on DK is just fine. Let me look at our most recent ownership. We have him at 48%. I would have less than that. I have no problem with it. It's just an ownership play. He projects very well at $6,200, but I would rather I haven't projected a little better than Ja Morant, who costs a little more. I'm projected better than Aaron Gordon, who costs a little more. I'm projected better than Jonas Valanciunas and Jamal Murray and Thomas Bryant, all of whom are in that same price range. But I haven't projected similarly to a lot of guys who cost 4K and 5K, and so he's not the guy I'm necessarily landing on there. But it is, it should be stated, you can get a 5x5 game out of Draymond Green in this spot pretty easily. So, I don't know how to put it any better than that. 50% is a high number to pay for Draymond Green. Most of the time, I don't think he pays that off, but it's in this matchup, which is just going to be all kinds of running and craziness. him coming up with 8 steals and 6 blocks really wouldn't be the weirdest thing I've ever seen. So he projects just fine. If he's in your cash lineup, I have no problem with that. If he's in your GPP lineup, I have no problem with that. But over time, I think playing less than 50% Draymond Green would be a more profitable play than playing 50% Draymond Green or 75% Draymond Green along with the field. I think his percentage chance to underwhelm that price is high enough that coming in under that would just long-term be the better play. I would rather play more Drew Holiday, play more guys who are it's a little harder to see them failing.
All right. Let me see. Shit. Just a good one here. Is this a Diamond Supply shirt? No, it says Diamond Thief on it. I found it in a closet. It's mine. All mine. Would you play single entry GPP on DraftKings, Jamal Murray and Burks, or NAW and Jokic?
Murray and Burks.
Would you play on FanDuel Kendrick or Eton Moore?
Do you mean Kenrich?
Kenrich, sorry.
It's okay. You said Kendrick, and I'm like,
I did. I'm thinking of the amazing world champion Washington
Howie.
Nationals.
Yeah. At this point, I would play Kenrich Williams if there are no other considerations. I have him projected slightly higher, and it's less likely he gets into a bit of a minute screw job here. So I would slightly prefer that.
Burks and Davis or LeBron and Hayes. That's not Isaac Hayes.
I'd play Burks and Davis.
All right, 3 minutes to go. So if you're like me, you may want to download this file and upload it where it belongs. So let me do that. Never Google or Kenrich.
I have Kenrich projected higher. Again, that game environment is just ridiculous.
Aminu or Melly GPP FanDuel. That was the one I was looking for.
That's a good one. I think you're still saving $400 on Melly. Cash or raw projection, I have Melly a little bit better. I probably play Melly in either actually at this point. But again, that's sort of tied in with my take on there not being as much Jackson Hayes as everyone else seems to expect. So, keep that in mind.
Let's see. Scrolling. Tournaments, DK, LeBron and Hayes or Jokic and Kendrick. He already has AD.
Play Jokic and Kendrick.
Redick versus Terrence Ross, straight up, please.
Right now, I'd play Terrence Ross because I don't think I know if Redick is playing. Double checking news on various
trending
things.
Towards, but still could be a game time. He could still tweak it.
So at this point, I would probably just suck down. But actually, no, I'd play Redick. The environment's that good. Again, you don't want to play him alongside, say, Alexander Walker. There's some negative correlation with, Etuan Moore. But, yeah.
Shout out there to Squatch Happens. He got the old Isaac Hayes reference. Aminu or Eton Moore?
Eton Moore.
Holiday and Hayes or Poole and Jokic on FanDuel?
I would play Poole and Jokic in GPPs. I would play Holiday and Hayes in cash, probably.
Oh, shit. Super chat. Len, Hayes, or Damian Jones FanDuel?
Hayes in cash, Damian Jones in tournaments, probably.
Type that one in if that helps. Sorry about that one. My apologies. That's going to do it for us here. We are going to be at lock. We are 22 seconds away, so by the time you guys are hearing this, we will be locked. We'll do a little daddy likes if you have some time, Eddie, because we have technology and we have some teams.
Yes, we do. Two of them, and we do.
So we will have Denver and Memphis and Washington and Orlando. But while I'm waiting for the games to load here, reminder, if you guys have not yet signed up to Fantasy Draft, you're definitely going to want to check that out. Every Sunday they have the, I believe it was $250,000 this week, Hooters large field tournament. It's rake free. How is it rake free, you ask? Well, you get a subscription to their site. What? I don't want to have to pay a subscription. I don't pay those at any other sites. No, you don't. You pay something that's called rake. They don't have rake. What you can play is $1,000 for just $5.99. You have 30 days to play through it. That's the subscription I have. If you deposit money, they're going to ask you to pay 3.5% to deposit that money. No problem. Because if I play through that $1,000, I have now spent $6 plus, let's put in 200. That's $1,250. So all I got to do is play $100, and I've now broken even over FanDuel and DraftKings if I'm playing tournaments. Which is better, Eddie? Which is better?
The one where you pay less. This is like when people get into like, we can't have socialized medicine, you'll raise my taxes. It's like, yes, but we'll decrease your insurance payment by twice as much. And like, people don't get that argument. They're like, well, my taxes would go up. It's like, yeah, but you'd pay, you'd save more than double that in, your actual insurance payment. And they're like, yeah, but my taxes would go up. Like,
and then you're going to put a gas tax on it on top of it, Eddie. I'm just
long story short, there's no site out there that is completely and totally free, as in they host their services for free. If you and someone play against each other for $10 each, they pay out $20 and never take a cent from anyone. But FanDuel and DraftKings are, skimming 10 to 15% off the top. Fantasy Draft is pulling usually less than 1. So yes, get back, $19.90 of that $20 and not, $17.50.
All right, got the file downloaded. This is coming out of the Excellent 8s. We, of course, have the...
Someone told me there was a bigger FanDuel top contest today than DraftKings.
Oh,
that's a rarity. We don't see that one often.
That is. So your choices are Denver, Memphis, Washington, Orlando. Who is the most popular play tonight? Wow, I am surprised.
You're surprised?
Yeah.
That really puts it out on me now. Wait, there's 2 early games.
There's 2 early games. Denver, Memphis, Washington, Orlando.
Nobody on Denver, nobody on Washington, nobody on Memphis. So Vooch.
What percent though?
82 on DK. People will play not enough Jokic, so 40.
We had him at 44.7. The field has him at 50.6.
That's a commitment.
50.6.
They have taken a position. It feels good. It's very cashy. I'd have less than 50 just because, again, there's many guys in brilliant spots, and I think long term I'd want less than like quite that much, but it's very similar to Draymond. Like, he's priced extremely well. Most of the time he's going to make you look pretty damn good, but that's a big number on a slate with a lot of guys. Like just in these 2 games, you're going to hear the numbers coming up on other guys with similar upside, with Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic and Aaron Gordon as an immediate leverage pivot, and all those guys are going to be whatever 10-15%. I'd slightly prefer to end up there than 51% on Vooch, but fine in cash and no issue with you having any amount of exposure.
All right. Would you like to name the other guys that are coming in here?
Do I get any hints, or how many are double digits sometimes?
There are
I don't know if that's you who's been doing
5
that.
double digits.
There are 5 guys total with double digit ownership.
Yes.
Okay. Vooch.
Oh, 1 more, not counting Vooch, so 6 total.
Okay. 5 others. Vooch, Ja Morant.
Yep.
Al-Farouq Aminu.
Yes.
Jokic will get double digits.
Yep.
Bradley Beal will get double digits.
Yep.
And Aaron Gordon. There you go. That's it. I got it.
You did.
There you go. Boom. Nailed it. Send it home. This is pretty easy. It's a pretty easy slate with the matchups. Again, there's only a couple teams you want to target here. So yeah, that was, 4 of the Magic starters. 3 of the Magic starters. It's 3 of the Magic starters. A Grizzly and Ja because he's awesome. Bradley Beal because he's awesome. And Jokic because he's awesome.
So a few people played themselves. Jordan McRae, 0.02. Kem Birch, I think with the team, but not DNPs, 0.01.
Yeah, I think he's active, so that doesn't count as playing yourself. He could
Bull,
conceivably play.
Bol,
Bol, he is actually not active, so that is playing yourself.
Andre Iguodala.
Well, he actually, I think he's on the injury report as not active.
Yes,
like he is
away from the team.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, I know he's not with. Don't get me wrong, he was not going to play, but still technically, But yeah, he's that counts as playing yourself. Give me
Admiral Schofield.
Yeah, not with the team. That's definitely correct. Give me some numbers on guys I'm curious about here.
Those guys were all basically zero. Jonathan Isaac was 0.2. He was the worst.
Yeah. No, give me Valanciunas.
Joe Val was 8.2.
Yeah, that's about right. Fournier
8.9.
Yeah, that's I'd want more than that. That's it's just a tough slate because I like Alec Burks so much. Obviously, I like Kai Bowman. So, I mean, that's hashtag analysis. That's what I get the big bucks for, is starting point guard in best possible matchup, costs the minimum or the minimum plus 300, going to play 37 minutes. No one on the team taking a shot. So I can't wait to see the Kai Bowman ownership. It's really a 100% spot for me. He needs to get injured. I don't know where the point of equanimity would be where I would want to start fading, but it's in the 90s.
We'll see.
It's so hard for him to fail, specifically on DraftKings. I kind of wish he wasn't there, because I think you'd get like 78% Jackson Hayes, and I'd like to come in under there. I'm really curious how this. So we should talk about late swaps for a second here.
Well, here's one. So on DK, Kenrich and Poole, or Draymond and Walker.
Kenrich and Poole pretty convincingly for me right now. So let's assume Reddick gets in there and plays. Let me go back and look at all my New Orleans notes. I never got done. I wanted to project a full rotation for them, but we just kept talking and I didn't quite get there. So yeah, big fan of Burks. Pretty against their ownership, I have a feeling I'm going to be a big fan of Poole as well. I even don't mind like Glenn Robinson. Like it's gonna be really interesting to see how that shakes out. What was Jokic owned?
Oh, hang on. Jokic was 16.
Yeah, like, yeah. Sorry, kids, but that's not how any of this works. I'm a big Vooch fan, and yeah, he saved you what, $500, but he should not be more than triple Jokic's ownership. So shout out to you if you ended up with some Jokic. That's an outstanding price. Whether or not you actually win, you got your chips on the table with the best hand. Barton will start. That was expected. Yeah. So I'm gonna go back there. I have a whole page of Pelicans notes I need to look at. Okay, so as of right now, we know that the guys who are out are going to be out. The Ingram news is the really big news here, and this has happened night after night after night after night, where just people are not swapping optimally, and some of the really the best money to be made this year was in just swapping in a non-stupid way. Last night it was Jimmy Butler, who at his price in a matchup with New Orleans should have been 40% owned, but he was questionable. And he was actually ruled in before lock, but just because of the whatever, he was 10% owned. He had 50. Then there was the Wiggins night. Then there was so swapping has been pretty critical here. This being long way around to when if the news hits that Brandon Ingram is going to play, Brandon Ingram is going to be incredibly underowned. And more importantly, is going to massively take away from the other guys on that team. So Brandon Ingram playing makes me much less interested in Alexander Walker, especially if Brandon Ingram and Reddick are playing. A little more concerned about Etuan Moore. A little more concerned about Kenrich Williams, who still is going to be on the top of the guys they get to play out there, but more concerned about Melly. A little more concerned about Jackson Hayes even. Certainly a matchup in which they can afford to go really small. So It's just one of the number. Like I like Jackson Hayes. I think the predominant likelihood is that Jackson Hayes plays 27 minutes and scores a similar number of fantasy points, and that feels really good for $3,300. But there's a lot of outcomes where he comes up short, and that includes foul trouble, going small, and other things. But just keep an eye on Brandon Ingram news, I guess, is where I would come in on that one. Someone was giving me crap for TJ Warren before. Look, I really like TJ Warren. TJ Warren took, I want to say, 21 shots in that game. Hold on, I'm looking at it. He was 6 for 21, okay? And it was $5,700 there. God forbid he makes half his shots from the field. The dude has 40 and would have been awesome. So I still stand by that having been a really good play. But yeah, the team scored 83 points and he missed 70 some odd % of his shots. So sorry that one didn't work out. Still felt good about it.
All right, gamers, we've got another show at 7:30, so I'm going to go eat some dinner, but dropping the NFL free article in the chat there for those of you still around. Looks like there's about 700 or so. We've got the 700 Club.
Yeah, keep an eye on Frank Jackson too.
Yeah, Frank Jackson's kind of interesting here. You'll want to look at
Frank Jackson. Frank Jackson started yesterday.
Yes,
like there are worlds in which Frank Jackson starts. So like really keep an eye on that lineup and swap aggressively into Frank Jackson starting, JJ Redick starting, Brandon Ingram starting. Those guys in a tremendous matchup will be underowned versus where they should be because of the inherent uncertainty there. And they should be projected for less. And there's, again, one of those things where people go, I don't take that into account. You should take that into account, but it's almost impossible to quantify. But the differential in what their expected production would be, and by that I'm saying a questionable player whose health isn't 100%, whether you're talking about Frank Jackson or JJ Redick, they should be projected for less. If in this spot in a vacuum, JJ Redick would be projected for 31.5 fantasy points, the right number tonight would probably be 25 or 27 or 29 or 30, even if he's starting, because there is some greater chance that the minutes are limited or he's not 100% and not as efficient of a scorer. But almost certainly, and I actually did some long-handed data analysis into this, that differential is less than how adversely his ownership is affected. If you, I'll sum it up as this. If over time you never played a player who was questionable and then confirmed in, or always played a player who is questionable and then confirmed in, the second would be the well more profitable strategy. There we go. Sorry to interrupt. I just want to get that out.
No, that's good. All right, gamers. With that, we are going to get on out of here. You can follow Eddie at Fast Eddie Fair on Twitter. I am at EMACDFS. It is Osmo_COM. And of course, shout out to Fantasy Draft, sponsor of Live Before Lock on Sundays. With that, gamers, 7:30 for the next show. See you in a few.